Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about UFC 291. Actually going to try something a little bit different today. We're going to do a full card breakdown, see how that video does, and if it doesn't do great, then next week I will go back to doing separate videos for each fight. But today we're talking about Matthew Semelsberger versus Uros Medic. This is a late replacement for Uros. It's supposed to be Johan Lenesi, and he got hurt. He had a withdrawal, but Matthew Semelsberger 11-5, 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Has had some tough fights as of late. Lost to Alex Morono. Did catch it with a flying knee late in the 3rd round, but just kind of grounded in that fight. Came back and fought Jake Matthews and fought him very, very well. Then fought Jeremiah Wells, where personally I thought he beat Jeremiah Wells. I thought he had him hurt a multitude of times. Did get put on his back a couple of times, which he has to fix. He has to figure out ways to get off of his back. 30 years old, 6'1", with a 75-inch reach. Uros Medic, 8-1. His one loss is Jalen Turner. Since then, fought Omar Morales, and he looked really, really good in that fight. Looked composed, looked accurate, looked powerful. 30 years old as well, 6'1", with a 71-inch reach, 4-inch reach advantage for Matthew Semelsberger. I think the big thing in this fight for me is Uros Medic is a little bit more accurate and a little bit more technical on his feet. Matthew Semelsberger is very fast, especially early, but Medic, I think, is the better arsenal of striking, and he's more accurate. I like Uros Medic in this fight. I think it's a good fight for him. I think it's stylistically it's good. I could see Semelsberger kind of turning it into a little bit of a wrestling match, striking, but going to grappling a little bit more, especially against the cage, closing the distance, looking to be a little chaotic to get Medic out of his comfort zone. But I think Uros Medic does well with that. I think besides Jalen Turner, we've seen him fight pretty well. I mean, he fought Alan Cruz and destroyed him 2 years ago. Jalen Turner kind of beat him up, hurt him pretty badly, and that was the start of Jalen Turner's run. But I like Medic in this fight. I just think he's more accurate, he's more technical, he's more powerful in a more technical aspect. Matthew Semelsberger is he's powerful, but he's more chaotic. So I like Medic in that fight. Next is Jake Matthews versus Miguel Baeza. Miguel Baeza was 10-0 at one point. He's lost 3 straight fights, 2 straight fights that are finishes, one by decision. That was Santiago Ponzinibbio. Before that, again, he beat Takashi Sato. He beat Matt Brown. He looked really, really good to start his UFC career. Santiago Ponzinibbio was just not sticking to the game plan, losing the fight late. He looked really, really good early. Just Ponzinibbio made it a war, that Ponzinibbio does. Jake Matthews looked incredible against Andre Filho. Looked absolutely great. Then he came back and fought Matthew Semelsberger, and he got cracked with a big shot, and he couldn't recover. Every time he kept getting hit, he kept getting hurt. So it was weird, because the best we'd ever seen him against Andre Filho, but then Matthew Semelsberger, he had a hard time taking his shots. 28 years old, 5'11" with a 72-inch reach. Miguel Baeza, 30 years old, 6'2" with a 74.5-inch reach. 2.5 reach advantage for Miguel Baeza, and 3 inches in height, or 2 inches. Yeah, 2 inches. No, 3. Yeah, 3. But either way, I personally like Jake Matthews in this one. I do think Miguel Baeza early is going to be the faster guy. It's going to be up to Jake to make the adjustments to wrestle him, get him a little bit tired, make him work. Again, make it a wrestling match. It's in Salt Lake City, Utah. The elevation is going to be a little nuts. Wrestle, wrestle, wrestle. That's what I expect from Jake Matthews. I expect a vintage Jake Matthews. I don't expect him to stay at striking range, where Miguel Baeza has had some success. The only success Matthews really has had with that is the Andre Filho fight. But Unfortunately, I do think Miguel Baeza loses again. That'd be 4 in a row. I do think it'll be a close decision, but I think Jake Matthews pulls this one out. Again, I think his wrestling is going to be the big difference. Next, we have Roman Kopylov versus Claudio Ribeiro. Roman Kopylov, 10-2, 3-2 in his last 5 fights. 32 years old, 6'12" with a 75-inch reach. He's fought very well in his last 2. Lost his first 2 in the UFC against Carl Robeson, rear naked choke, and Albert Duryov. Came back against Alessio Di Chirico and looked really good. Then fought Punahele Soriano and the first person to finish him. Hit him with a body kick and was able to finish him. Fighting Claudio Ribeiro, who's 11-3, 4-1 in his last 5 fights. His one loss is Abdulrazak Al-Hassan, who Ribeiro looked okay early, but that style of Hassan is Al-Hassan is so powerful and so fast, and he decided to fight patient, and Al-Hassan fought very well in that fight, and Claudio Ribeiro came back and fought Joseph Holmes and looked really good. Holmes looked really bad. 31 years old, 6'1" with a 77-inch reach, 1 inch in height for Ribeiro, 2 inches in reach for Ribeiro. Actually, I like Kopylov in this one. I think his combinations, I think his distant management is really good. I think when he gets too close, he grabs on, and I think that helps him a lot. Ribeiro is really good if he can keep his distance like he did with Holmes and then spring in there. I like Kopylov in this one. I think his combinations, I think his speed, his power is really good. His footwork's underrated, I think. I like Kopylov in this one. I think Kopylov gets it done. I think he wins this fight. Next is the one fight on this card that's not great. Joanne Wood versus Priscilla Kacheria. Joanne Wood actually surprised me in her last one against Luana Carolina. I did not think Wood was going to win that fight, and she looked pretty good in there. Well, she's 16-8, 2-3 in her last 5 fights. 37 years old, 5'6", with a 65.5-inch reach. Priscilla, 12-4, 34 years old, 5'7", with a 65-inch reach, half-inch advantage for Wood. The really fun part about this fight is Wood isn't great on the ground, and Kacheria is really bad on the ground. Really bad. Kacheria has won 2 in a row, beat Ariane Lipski in her last one 9 months ago. I think Joanne Wood's striking actually looks decent in this fight. I think she does a good enough job to keep Kacheria at a distance, but is able to use her kickboxing. I think I do believe Joanne Wood is moving up to bantamweight, or maybe Kacheria is going down to bantamweight. Either way, doesn't really matter. Or no, her last one she fought 126. So Kacheria must be going down to 126, 125. Yeah, so I like Joanne Wood for sure in this fight. I think her stand-up is going to be the big difference. And Kacheria, her big flaw in her career has been losing. She's been submitted twice. She has no submission wins. And I don't see that really changing against Joanne Wood. I like Joanne Wood in this fight. I think she gets the job done. Next is Trevin Giles versus Gabriel Bonfim. Trevin Giles. What a fucking idiot. Trevin Giles, Jesus. 16 wins, 4 losses, 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Is on a 2-fight win streak. 30 years old, will be 31 in a couple months. 6 foot tall with a 74-inch reach. Gabriel Bonfim, 14-0, 25 years old. 6'1 with a 72-inch reach. 2-inch reach advantage for Giles. The big difference in this fight for me is how well-rounded Gabriel Bonfim is. Again, like I said, he's 14-0. Has 11 wins by submission, 3 by TKO or KO. He is a finishing machine. He's never been to a decision. He's 1-0 in the Contender Series, 1-0 in the UFC, and it's not terrible competition either. But Giles, he's definitely has had more experience in the UFC. I mean, he's fought a lot of people. Fought Dricus Du Plessis, fought Michael Morales, fought Loan Kosi, fought Preston Parsons. Roman Dolidze he fought. He actually was the one loss on Roman Dolidze's record. Trevin Giles definitely can pose a little bit of a threat to Bonfim. I think his style of darting in and darting out is going to get him into some trouble, and I think Bonfim catches another probably guillotine or rear naked choke, but in his last fight against Mani Laziz, caught him with a guillotine. Very nice guillotine, by the way. I have Gabriel Bonfim winning this fight. I think he finishes Giles. Don't think it's going to be on the feet, but I do think he submits him. Probably, like I said, catches him and then jumps on something. But I think Gabriel Bonfim wins this fight. Next is Derek Lewis versus Marcus Rodrigo de Lima. Derek Lewis, 26 wins, 11 losses. He's 1-4 in his last 5 fights. 38 years old, 6'3", with a 79-inch reach. Marcus Rodrigo de Lima, 21, 8-1. He's 4-1 in his last 5 fights. His one loss is against Blagoy Ivanov a year ago. Since then, beat Andrei Arlovsky and then beat Waldo Cortez Acosta. Before that, actually finished Ben Rothwell, which doesn't happen. 38 years old, 6'1", with a 75-inch reach, 2-inch advantage for Lewis, and a 4-inch reach advantage also for Derek Lewis. The issue I have with this fight for Derek Lewis is Rodrigo can grapple. I mean, especially early, Marcus Rodrigo can, he can grapple. He also has 13 wins by TKO and KO, 4 by submission. Has been finished 6 out of his 8 losses. He's 10-6 in the UFC. You know, Alexander Romanov finished him. Stefan Struve finished him after he was hurt. OSP finished him. Yeah, he definitely has been susceptible to being finished in his career, especially in his UFC career. But again, Derek Lewis just hasn't looked great. Good competition. He's 17-9. Sergey Spivak submitted him. Sergey Pavlich finished him in a weird sequence. Taitu Avasa finished him after he was really hurt. Chris Dawkins was destroyed by Derek Lewis, but Cyril Gane finished Lewis in the 3rd round. Just kind of had his way with him, beat him up a little bit, and then got him out of there in his hometown. You know, this fight is weird because on the feet, I think Derek Lewis could have some success, but also Rodrigo is deceptively fast, and he hits very, very hard. He covers a lot of distance. The one thing I like about this is if Derek Lewis can go first. I think his power is huge on Rodrigo de Lima. I just think Rodrigo de Lima has more ways to win with his submissions, with his power in his hands, hurting Derek Lewis, or just grappling Derek Lewis, which I would imagine is what he's going to do. Unless Derek Lewis goes right out there and right at Marcus Rodrigo de Lima, I think Marcos wins this fight. Unfortunately, I don't think Derek Lewis wins it. I just think I think the time is probably pretty close. Next is Stephen Wonderboy Thompson versus Michel Pereira. Wonderboy Thompson, 17 wins, 6 losses, 1 draw, 3-2 in his last 5 fights. His last fight was Kevin Holland, beat the dog crap out of Holland after that first round. 40 years old, 6 foot tall with a 75-inch reach. Michel Pereira, 28-11, 29 years old, 6'1" with a 73-inch reach, 1 inch in height for Pereira, 2 inches in reach for Wonderboy Thompson. The biggest thing for me is, even though Michel Pereira has been very much calmer in his last couple fights, to say the least, I still think his style is tailor-made for like a Wonderboy, like karate, cover the distance, keep your distance, sidekick. I think Wonderboy pieces up Michel Pereira. I think Michel Pereira is going to be trying to look for takedowns and covering distance and maybe some chaotic things here and there. But I just think that style of trying to get Wonderboy down with chaos isn't going to work. Because Pereira is not the same wrestler as like a Bilal or a Gilbert. Those two guys that are able to ground Wonderboy. Just don't think Pereira can do that. Jesus. I like Wonderboy in this fight. I think he's able to pick apart Pereira. Even if he's not able to find the finish, I do think he hurts him a multitude of times. And I do think Wonderboy Thompson gets the win. And then for some reason we have CJ Vergara versus Vincia Salvador above Wonderboy. I don't really understand that. But CJ Vergara, Vincia Salvador. CJ Vergara, 11 wins, 4 losses, 1 draw, 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Did win his last one against Daniel Lacerda, which I don't really know how the referee didn't stop that fight. That was bad. 32 years old, 5'6", with a 68-inch reach. Vincia Salvador lost his last one against Victor Altamirano. Looked pretty bad in that fight. Looked good on the Contender Series, but he also fought Shannon Ross, who's bad. 27 years old, 5'7" with a 70.5-inch reach, 2.5-inch reach advantage for Vincius Salvador. 1 inch in height for Vincius Salvador. This fight is going to be awesome. I think CJ Vergara, if I had to guess, is going to put the pressure on Salvador and keep that distance very, very close. I think he's going to be looking to wrestle a little bit, looking to use his speed. On the outside, Salvador, like, on extending his combinations is very, very good. But we seen with Victor Altamirano when he fought him that if you use a lot of movement, he has a hard time finding his shots. CJ Vergara uses his movement pretty well in his fights. Not all the time, but typically pretty well. I like CJ Vergara in this one. I think he's able to slow Vincius Salvador up a little bit. And, CJ Vergara has 7 wins by TKO or KO, 4 by decision. Has been submitted twice. But I'm not really expecting Vincius Salvador to really win by submission when he has 1-1. 1 win, 1 loss by sub. He has been finished twice on the feet, but he also has 13 wins by TKO or KO. Again, I don't imagine... What? Oh, right there. Jeff Alfilio finished Vincius Salvador on the ground in the second round 3 years ago. But again, I like CJ Vergara in this fight. I think he gets the job done, and I think he wins. Next on to the main card, Michael Chiesa versus Kevin Holland. Michael Chiesa, 16 wins, 6 losses, 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Hit one of those losses against Vicente Luque and then Sean Brady. 35 years old, 6'1" with a 75.5-inch reach. Kevin Holland, 24 wins, 9 losses, 3-2 in his last 5 fights. His 1 win since losing to Wonderboy was Santiago Ponzinibbio, and he flatlined him. 30 years old, 6'3" with an 81-inch reach. 5.5-inch reach advantage for Kevin Holland. 2 inches in height also for Holland. I know people talk about how good Michael Chiesa is, like grappling fighters. I don't really see that because he's fought grapplers before and not looked great. Like Vicente Luque, Chiesa looked good early, but as soon as he was on bottom, he didn't look good. And Sean Brady, when he got on top of Chiesa, he didn't look good. Kevin Holland, especially at 170, is able to defend takedowns so much better than he once did before. And I think the power on Holland is going to surprise Chiesa and make him gun-shy, even more gun-shy than he already is typically. I like Kevin Holland in this fight. I think he picks apart Chiesa. I think Kevin Holland, if he gets taken down, it has a really, really crafty guard for someone like Michael Chiesa, who is a little weird on the ground. But Kevin Holland has 20 finishes. 20. So I don't expect, if Michael Chiesa can get Kevin Holland's back, then Kevin will be in some trouble for sure. But I think at 170, Kevin's defense for that stuff is so much better than what it was at 185. I like Kevin Holland a lot in this one, and I think we might see Michael Chiesa actually get finished with punches. Maybe. But Kevin Holland wins this fight. Next is Tony Ferguson versus Bobby Green. Tony Ferguson, 25 wins, 8 losses. He has lost a lot of fights in a row. He's lost his last 5 fights. 39 years old, 5'11" with a 76.5-inch reach. Bobby King Green, 29 wins, 14 losses, 1 draw. He's 2-2-1 in his last 5 fights. 36 years old, 5'10" with a 71-inch reach, 5.5-inch reach advantage for Tony El Cucuy Ferguson. The big question is, can Tony Ferguson turn the clock back? Can Tony Ferguson bring out El Cucuy? Can he bring out that savage who should have had a title shot? The savage who should have been champion, who should never have been stripped of his title? Can Bobby Green bring that out of Tony Ferguson? I don't know. Stylistically, yes. Stylistically, Bobby Green is the guy that could bring that guy back. Bobby Green holding his hand, keeping his hands down, throwing from the hips like he does. That style is so fun to watch, and only Bobby Green could really do that. Tony Ferguson, where he's had a lot of issues, is guys that are able to mix up everything. This fight, I think, is going to be crazy. It's going to be fight of the night potential. I think both guys are going to go out on their shield. I think Bobby Green can get this fight done. I think his speed and his power could really affect Tony Ferguson. I'm not for sure if he finishes him, but I think Bobby Green, especially past that first round where Tony's going to be the most dangerous, I think Bobby Green, if he starts getting in that rhythm, I like Bobby Green a lot in that fight. So Bobby Green, I believe, wins. Tony Ferguson can create chaos in that first round. Let's see what happens. But I have Bobby Green winning. Next is Paulo Costa versus Ikram Aliskerov. Jesus. Paulo Costa, 14 wins, 2 losses. He's 3-2 in his last 5 fights. His last win was Luke Rockhold 10 months ago. Crazy how long it's been. 32 years old, 6'1", with a 72-inch reach. Ikram, 14-1. The one loss, of course, being Hamzat Chimaev. 30 years old, 6'1", with a 76-inch reach. 4-inch reach advantage for Ikram. This is the 3-round fight, so we're going to see Paulo Costa, Yoel Romero type crap. I think Ikram's striking could pose a lot of issues because how accurate it is, but something to change that a little bit is Paulo Costa putting the pressure on him and having a lot of outplay. Understanding that output and pressure is going to be key, and I think Paulo Costa can get it done because of that. I think Ikram, if he can keep Costa at a distance and make Costa maybe stun him with something a little bit early, or I don't think the takedowns from Costa is going to mount to anything. Ikram's really good with that stuff, but it's the striking. If Ikram can keep Costa at his range and just box with him, Ikram stands a big chance of actually finishing Paulo Costa on the feet. But I think Paulo's pressure and pace and cardio and output can really be the big difference in this fight. I like Paulo Costa a lot in this one. I think Ikram definitely could get it done with his strikes, but I think the style of Paulo Costa wins this fight. Jan Blachowicz versus Alex Pereira. Jan Blachowicz, 29 wins, 9 losses, 1 draw. He's 3-1-1 in his last 5 fights. 40 years old, 6'2", with a 78-inch reach. Fighting Alex Pereira, 7-2, 4-1 his last 5 fights. Of course, we know the losing to Adesanya. It hasn't even been 3 months yet since he was knocked out cold. 36 years old, 6'4", with an 80-inch reach, 2 inches in height and 2 inches in length for Alex Pereira. This is an interesting fight because if it's Jan going first, Alex is in trouble. But if Alex is going first, Jan is in trouble. Who is going to be able to dictate it? I think the technical ability of Alex Pereira is going to help him a lot with Jan, because Jan tends to wait and then explode, or just if he's able to go first, Jan goes first and he looks good. But if guys are able to move him backwards, he doesn't look as good. We've seen it time and time again with Jan Blachowicz. And I do think the power of Alex Pereira could cause a lot of issues because of the style of Jan. But again, Alex Pereira just got flatlined 2 months ago. This fight is not that long, not that far away. It's 17 days away. 17 days away. So it'll be a little over 3 months. That's why I'm picking Jan Blachowicz. I don't think Alex Pereira is going to be able to take the power from Jan. I think it's going to tell us a lot that first shot that Jan's able to land. And I think Jan goes right at Alex Pereira. I just think he goes right at him. He tests that chin. I know he's moving up, but he was just flatlined. At that point, in 2 weeks, it'll be, just over 3 months ago. Jan Blachowicz probably by knockout. Next is Dustin Poirier versus Justin Gaethje. Dustin Poirier, 29 wins, 7 losses, 4-1 in his last 5 fights. That one loss is Charles Oliveira. Came back and beat Michael Chandler in a chaotic fight. 34 years old, 5'9", with a 73-inch reach. Justin Gaethje, 24 wins, 4 losses, 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Again, 34 years old, 5'11", with a 70-inch reach. 3-inch reach advantage for Dustin Poirier. 2 inches in height for Justin Gaethje. And, people talk a lot about this fight being in Salt Lake City, being an elevation. Dustin Poirier, 29 wins. This guy has 22 finishes. It's kind of crazy. He has been submitted 3 times. He has lost by punches 2 times. Conor McGregor and Michael Johnson are the 2 guys that were able to finish him on the feet. But again, he's 21-6. in the UFC. You don't get much better than that. Justin Gaethje is 7-4 in the UFC. The amount of experience that Dustin Poirier has over Gaethje is crazy. Again, do I think Gaethje will have success? Yes. Do I think he'll create chaos and be able to hit Poirier? Yes. But every single fight that Poirier, if there's a chance of him biting down on that mouthpiece and seeing who the bigger dog is when they're hurt, I'm going to pick Poirier every single time. We've seen it time and time again. When he fought Dan Hooker, losing the first couple rounds, almost getting KO'd at the end of the second round, I believe. He came back and just turned it up, and then when he fought Conor McGregor, Conor landed a big shot. Dustin Poirier landed those, leg kicks or whatnot and was able to finish Conor. Then finish Conor again. Didn't lose to Charles, but that was a grappler. Michael Chandler gets tested early, comes back, and is able to finish Michael Chandler by rear naked choke, which is not an easy thing to do to Michael Chandler. Justin Gaethje, when it's a grappler, he's had a lot of issues. That's his losses. Besides Eddie Alvarez. He's a striker for sure, but yeah. 3 losses by basically grapplers. Again, in firefights, Gaethje, that's his, go-to. That's where he's his best, in those chaotic, crazy moments. But we've already seen Poirier, how he's able to defeat Justin Gaethje. How do you change that now? How does Justin Gaethje change that? Be a little bit more technical, pick his shots a little bit more, make sure he's going first and not let Poirier go first. Okay, cool. But when Poirier gets hurt and Poirier gets stunned or he's in trouble, I like that dog in Dustin Poirier. I just like it. I can't see a way for Justin Gaethje to make enough adjustments unless he has that one-shot power against Poirier, which he hasn't really had in a while, since like James Vick and Edson Barboza. I like Dustin Poirier a lot in this fight. I think he gets it done, and I think he probably gets another shot at that title. We'll see, though. Subscribe, like, comment. Let me know what you guys think. Do you guys like this full card breakdown a little bit more than the individual fights? Let me know what you guys think, and as always, peace.